The United States ambassador has called on the United Nations Secretary General to condemn what she calls the unprofessional conduct of Cuban and Bolivian delegates who disrupted as a U.S.-sponsored event at the World Body last week. Diplomats from both Cuba and Bolivia protested loudly and shouted down speakers at an event to highlight the struggles of political prisoners in Cuba. Ambassador Nikki Haley has since written to the UN chief, urging him to establish an investigation over what she calls the serious misconduct of the Cuban and Bolivian delegations.
These were the chaotic scenes inside the ECOSOC chamber when Cuban and Bolivian diplomats refused to allow the event to proceed quietly. Haley has since written to the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, calling the behavior of diplomats outrageous and urging him to publicly condemn the appalling behavior and destruction of UN property.
At this, we'll evaluate what kind of response can be made. You'll have seen what we said at the time of the incident, and we'll continue to evaluate what further steps are needed.
The letter refers to serious damage to desks in the ECOSOC chamber and insists that delegations responsible for any damage be liable for the costs. Cuba earlier also complained to the Secretary General about the Jailed for What event that examined the plight of Cuba's political prisoners, arguing that it was in violation of UN rules about the use of its premises.
Cuba condemns once again and rejects in the strongest possible terms this new anti-Cuban action by the United States government, which constitutes an affront to the sovereignty of the Cuban people and disrespect of their right to self-determination.
Awaiting further clarity on how the UN will respond, this is what they said last week about the hosting of events by member states on its premises.
The rules require that a proposed event must be consistent with the purposes and principles of the UN and that it has to be non-commercial in nature. As a result of this requirement, the sponsoring permanent mission must certify that this is the case upon requesting the use of a UN conference room.
The United States and Cuba have strained relations, related particularly to the continued unilateral economic embargo of the island, despite multiple UN General Assembly resolutions calling for it to be lifted. Sherman Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.